Hello to all the people that I upset 3 years ago when I sold one of my favorite cars I have ever owned. I think at the time of doing YouTube, I was one of the only guys in the scene that was making content about this chassis and building it up, making some good horsepower, making a whole bunch of videos and thoroughly enjoying it. And over the past 3 years, I have been through everything. 2 RX-7s, a Skyline, a couple of Civics, a couple of different Hondas, a Evo, a BRZ, and I think now we're gonna have to get back to our roots and back to where this channel originally started. 2 years ago, I made a pact to myself that I would get out onto the track whenever I possibly could. And that meant driving my BRZ and my Evo to the track as much as I possibly could, to the point where now I have a dedicated track car. However, the issue arose when I got that car and I pulled it off the road that I do not have a tow car for that car. I needed a tow car, and that got me onto looking at Patrols, at Navaras, at Hiluxes, at everything. And I thought long and hard about this because I have never actually owned a ute. Every single time that I've borrowed and every single time I've been in these big cars, I don't like it. Every single one of my cars is tiny and small. I do need a ute to tow my cars around with. So for the past 6 months, I have been trying to find a car to do that. I can't believe I've done this, to be honest. I guess without further ado, let's welcome back all the Falcon people to the channel. Well guys, that is correct. I have officially joined the Falcon people once again. And this right here is my brand new Nitro Blue XR6 Ute. And I'm really stoked. I think this is the first ever responsible adult choice I have ever made in my life, because I have never owned a ute. I've always needed to move stuff around and do stuff with utes and always borrowed other people's cars to be able to do so. And for the first time ever, I can finally fix my needs and my pleasure all in one specific car. Now, it's not perfect, as all marketplace deals are. It's definitely not perfect, but I'm gonna run you through some things really quickly because there's a few little things about this car that I want you to know about. Alright, so first of all, yes, it is a XR6 Ute. I've been looking around for one of these for about 6 months now, and trying to find one at a decent price nowadays is ridiculous. Back when I was in the Falcon game, used to be able to buy like just regular FGs for like 6 to 8 grand. A turbo one, I picked up my Breeze Turbo for around 12 grand. And now NAs are like between 8 and 12, and turbos are like 20 plus. So there was no way I was able to get a turbo. So we're just gonna hide the grill for this segment real quick. So for the last 6 months, my full-time job has basically been marketplace to try and find a car that will suit my needs. I can't get into the big four drive thing and the big ute thing. I hate driving them, I don't like it, and there are cars out there that are better suited to me and what I want to do and be able to tow my track car with. And to be honest, it was either between this or a Holden Ute, but the Holden Utes don't tow as much, and ZF FGs can tow 2300 kilo. So immediately I'm just like, okay, I need to get another Falcon Ute. And I was gonna buy a B series. The B series now is very, very, very old. They're getting up to the 20-year mark. And I've actually owned a couple of B series, and yes, I love them. However, it just didn't really suit me. I've driven FGs, and I think FG is the much better car. And so I'm just like, okay, if I'm gonna do it once, I'm gonna do it right. I'm gonna get a proper tow car, I'm gonna buy an FG. And so when the time finally came, I was looking around at different cars, and a few got sold out from under me. There was a Nitro Blue XR50 NA that was 10 grand, and it was really, really nice. Had 300 and something thousand Ks on it, and I'm just like, okay, I'll come have a look at it. It got sold out from under me. There was another Swift green one that I was actually gonna fly to Adelaide to go pick up until I found out it was manual. The issue with the manuals is the fact that the Utes, for some reason, can only tow 1200 kilo legally, so I wasn't able to buy a manual Ute. And then after a very few disappointing days of me only being able to find NA Utes that cost about, I don't know, between 10 and 12, this thing came up, and it was 12 grand on Marketplace. And I'm like, okay, Nitro Blue Ute, sweet, flicking through some photos, and then I saw this. That is correct. This right here is a BARRA turbo. And I was blown away because this thing wasn't listed as a turbo. And it didn't have anything about a turbo in the description. And so I'm like, oh, I wonder if anyone knows about this really quickly. I messaged the guy. The first thing he says is, hey, it's Zach Baldy. Surely this is a scam, right? Surely there's no way that there is a BARRA Turbo Ute for sale for 12 grand and no one has picked it up yet. Turns out I was one of the first people to message the guy who had the car. His name is Ben. He's a very, very, very nice guy. And yes, it was true. This right here was a legitimate turbo Nitro XR50 Ute, and it was listed for 12 grand. And up until this point, I'd only ever seen another turbo Ute, which I think was, some of the sedans are going for like 18, 17K, which is like the lowest I'd ever seen them ever. The Utes are going for 20. For some reason, the Utes are more expensive at the moment. And so I messaged Ben and he's like, hey bro, I know you. I've received hundreds of messages already about this car, but I want to see it up on your channel. So if you can come down here today, come have a look at it. Let me know what you reckon. You can potentially pick it up. And I was like, okay, all right, I'll see you in an hour and a half. So I drove down to Phillip Island, which is where this car was located, and I met up with Ben, who by the way is a super genuine and super nice guy. And he walked me through the entire car, let me know about some of the issues as the reason as to why he was selling this thing for 12 grand. And already through some of the videos, you can probably see why this car was listed a little bit lower. But I am not the type of person to pass up on a bit of a project. You guys all know that I have had project cars. I've bought questionable history cars. Most of my cars are repairable write-offs. And in fact, this is probably the cleanest title car I have bought ever in my existence of owning cars. So let's walk through some of the issues with my beautiful new XR50 Turbo. First of all, it had a massive power steering leak, and you guys all know that I love power steering pumps in these cars. I have replaced one in every single FG that I've owned, and so this one here was no exception. So it also has a small little water pump leak, so we're gonna have to do a new water pump on this car as well before roadworthy. And it also has a sump plug leak. It just has a reused copper washer, which unfortunately does leak, but that is a nice easy fix because we service our cars every single time we buy a new one, don't we guys? Yeah, that's right. Now, aside from that, looking around the car, if we put down the aftermarket XR8 bonnet, which I've never owned in my existence, which is very, very cool, you guys can see that it has terrible paint fade. Now, this one here was done, I believe Ben said, with a rattle can, and yeah, no clear was added to it whatsoever. It's still blue, like from a distance, you can't really notice it. It's not too bad if we walk around the car. But you can definitely tell that it has no clear coat on it. So that's another thing we're gonna have to fix up. And I've never actually bought a car where we need to do some paint work to it. So I'm very excited to actually learn how to do some paint. And then also it has a hard lid too. Now the hard lid is super, super cool because when I go to the track, sometimes it does rain and sometimes you do need a hard lid to protect all of your valuable stuff. Unfortunately, it has all of this all over it. It has absolutely copped it by the sun, and the clear coat is just failed entirely. Now, looking around at other Falcon Utes at the moment, there's pretty much nothing on the market that doesn't have clear coat fade. It just seems to be a thing now that they're getting to that age. Unfortunately, all the cheap ones, they have been a little bit neglected, and unfortunately they have got a little bit of paint fade. But the best bit is that everywhere else on the car, there is no paint fade. So on top of the guards, they're sweet. On top of the pillars, that's all good. Even at the top of the roof, there is zero paint fade on this entire Ute where it needs it. So realistically, if I was to get rid of the hard lid, which doesn't need to be there, and if I was to put like a nitro blue bonnet, which these things get sold all the time, this thing could actually look really nice and it would be paint fadeless. But yeah, I know, I kind of, as I said, I do want the hard lid and I do want the XR8 bonnet. So we will be going through, we will be painting it. Now the biggest issue that this car right here has, and the one that Ben told me about, but couldn't actually get to replicate the issue, was this thing does have a ZF 6-speed issue. Now I have been through multiple ZF transmissions at this point. I have owned 5 of them between 2 cars, and I just hate them. They have plagued my existence for God knows how many years, and it almost turned me away from this car because I'm like, God forbid I need to deal with more ZF transmission issues. This car is going to be a tow car, and I definitely need a decent transmission because I know that even for towing with these things, you need a transcooler. They do run hot, and yeah, I just need a good mechanical base. So I bought it knowing that it has issues, and that's where we stand. So I will be entirely honest in this video. This car was listed for $12,000. I went down, spoke with Ben, we went out for a drive in this car, and I fell in love with it. It is so comfortable, it is so beautiful. It has a full leather interior. I'll quickly show you guys the interior while we're here as well, because it is honestly really, really beautiful. It's all XR50, so it's got the black surround, it's got the color screen, it's got the silver buttons, which I always wanted. All the boots and everything have all been redone in blue stitch Alcantara, which is so nice. And it has the full leather XR50 interior, which is super, super nice. So after all of those issues, and then also looking inside the car, the headlining had completely fallen down. And another thing that also happened was the when I bought it, the key barrel stopped working, so I had to get a new key barrel for it. So a few little hidden things with this car, but at the end of the day, I ended up picking it up. Now, what price did I pick up my beautiful blue Ute for? I went there and I said, look, it's $12,000. I understand it's already really cheap. And if you don't want to negotiate on price, that is completely fine. With the ZF transmission issue, I know for a fact that I'm going to have to spend about $1,500 to $2,000 to put a new transmission in it, if it comes to that. Would you let it go for 10? And to my surprise, Ben comes back with 10.5, and I shook on that. I think surely this has to be the cheapest XR50 Turbo in the history of the world. Now, do I think this car is worth $10,500? Yes, I do. And for me personally, having bought Falcons in the past that have been a little bit cheaper, a little bit more expensive, I think this is probably the worst condition Falcon that I've bought within those price brackets. And we're not going to include the fact that COVID tax has now brought these things up to about 20 grand. This thing has 319,000 Ks. It does have paint fade. I do need to replace the transmission in this car. I also told Ben, look, as good as the car is, I will need to be doing a few things to it to get it ready for towing. The fact it doesn't have a tow bar was one of those things that I really wanted to try and find on a car already installed from Ford. So that's going to be something I'm going to have to install myself. I will have to replace the wheels because the wheels are not going to be load rated for me towing a trailer in a car as well. So that's something that's going to have to be fixed. The headlining, the key barrel, a few little different things. This car is probably going to require a couple of grand's worth of work to get sorted. Even just in the paint alone will be probably about 2 grand to get the bonnet and the hard lid done. So yes, there is a good amount of work in this car, and realistically to bring it up to the level of about a $20,000 car, it's probably going to require between 5 to 6 grand's worth of work. But that is where we stand. I now have a beautiful project nitro blue XR50 Ute, and I am so stoked to be back in a Turbo Falcon. I've honestly missed driving these things for the longest time. I jumped back in it on the drive back from Phillip Island back to my place, and it was the most comfortable, most beautiful, most amazing experience. And it sort of brought back memories of when I did that amazing big road trip in my first Turbo Falcon all the way down to Victoria, and realized just how much I wanted to live down to Victoria. And now I'm down to Victoria, and I have probably one of my favorite cars known to man. I love it. Alrighty, so where do we go from here? Well, this thing is going to be going under the knife very soon because we have to get it ready for roadworthy. So that's going to be in the next video. We're going to be getting this car entirely ready to go and set up for a roadworthy inspection, because I'm going to be doing it legit. Not to say that I've done anything illegitimate in the past, but we're going to be doing it legit. We need to fix some stuff on this car. Power steering leak, the water pump leak. We need to fix the oil drain leak. We need to fix a whole bunch of things on this car to get it ready for roadworthy. There's a few things I've already done and gone through to go get it sorted. I got the new key barrel, which was about $450 with a couple of new keys, and I also got the headlining redone, which is definitely needed for roadworthy as well, which I paid $250 for. So that's a brand new headlining, brand new key barrel, and a couple of keys. I'm already about $700 deep into this project, but aside from that, I'm very stoked to be back in a Falcon. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you're keen. I'll see you all in the next video.